Hello my friends and welcome back. It's Friday, so happy Friday to you. Today we begin with the good news, but it's not what you think. I can't believe I'm saying this, such clickbait. Anyway, United States, Joe Biden allowed their weapons to be used inside Russia, but it's really not what you think because they gave new restrictions to it. They only allow their weapons to be used in Kharkiv Oblast, attacking into Russia, into border areas from Kharkiv, because from Russian bordering areas, they use S-300 anti-air missiles to be used in Kharkiv city. Now, these weapons are not precise since they're old and meant for anti-aircraft usage, but still Kharkiv is such an urbanized area, as you can see from the map. You will hit something wherever it lands. So, I'll read you a thread, an analysis of what exactly are the new restrictions for the United States weapons and what exactly can Ukraine do with them now. The restrictions relaxed, but they did not remove them completely. Apparently, the new direction of United States weapons will allow Ukraine to employ American weapons to intercept Russian missiles that are targeting Kharkiv and to attack concentrations of Russian troops just over the border in the vicinity of the city. Now, what does this mean? Yes, believe it or not, before Ukraine was not allowed to intercept Russian missiles on Russian airspace, but obviously heading towards Ukraine. They had to wait until these missiles enter into Ukrainian airspace and then try to shoot them down. Now, this is a severe limitation that now has been removed. Number two, attacking the troops just on the border areas of Kharkiv Oblast, meaning that in between Belgorod, this Russian city, and the Ukrainian border, there are thousands, well, actually tens of thousands of troops that target Ukrainian border villages with artillery shells, with Grad multiple rocket launchers, with everything they have. And by now, Ukraine has not been allowed to attack them in any way. Well, now this will change. They can attack them. Permitted targets also apparently include Russian Air Force bombers, which launch many of the long-range missiles that attack Ukraine's civil infrastructure and civilian targets. Now again, believe it or not, Russian bombers that lift up from, let's say, any air base from this Voronezh, Belgorod, Kursk triangle right here, obviously heading towards Ukraine, obviously shooting out missiles to hit Ukrainian cities and civilians. Ukraine has not been allowed to strike them because they're inside Russian airspace. Well, now this changes. They can shoot anti-air missiles into Russian airspace to shoot down these bombers. First implication is that it will allow Ukraine to target Russian troops, especially high-value targets such as command and control elements, artillery, logistics, and air defense units that are located on Russian territory near Kharkiv, and concentrating on rehearsing future operations against Ukraine. All of Russian logistics in the northern area, Kharkiv Oblast, northern front, let's call it that, is working on Russian territory. Since Russians know the restrictions that Ukrainians are not allowed to strike it, they can just work their logistics, their combat training freely close to the Ukrainian border, making it very convenient and easy for them to send tens of thousands of troops suddenly over the border. These troops are well equipped, they're trained, and they have been in the area for months since nobody has been attacking them. Well, this changes now, forcing Russians to rethink and replan and re-strategize their entire logistics and troop training grounds. Second, the agreement appears to allow for targeting of Russian combat aircraft, including bombers, that are targeting Kharkiv. This is important because, as Ukraine has shown in the past, with the right planning, it can conduct air defense ambushes to down Russian aircraft targeting Ukraine with their missiles. And this is exactly what Ukraine did. At one certain instance, they used a Patriot system provided to them by the Germans, and of course it's the United States system, and they used it without asking permission from the United States or Germany, and they used it against Russian aircraft. They shot down 4 in one day. It was a perfect ambush. But then it was followed by an angry call from Washington and from Berlin that if the Ukrainians do that again, then Ukraine will not receive any more Patriot ammunition. That is a big threat. So they stopped. But this goes to show that Ukraine has the capability, with the correct planning, to ambush Russian clusters of aircraft and shoot down 4 in one day. That is insane. And if they are allowed to do that, which now they are, Russian aviation losses will become a lot larger. This is good news, and it will change a lot. It will change things like opening new fronts From the Russian side, they were able to open the Kharkiv front because Ukraine was not allowed to do anything against the forming of it. It took time to form and prepare for it, but Ukraine couldn't do anything for it. Well, now they can. Here, my friends, you can see a visualized map of all of the countries who have allowed their weapons to be used on Russian soil, Russian territory, or Russian targets inside Russia. As you can see, it's most of Europe. It's also Canada. It shows grey on this map, but Canadian foreign minister just came out and said that they never had any restrictions on their weapons. And as we can see, the biggest no-sayers to usage of the Western weapons on Russian territory are Germany, Italy, and now United States is somewhere in the middle, allowing some and not allowing others. Main players here that need to change their mind are United States and Germany. And I'm waiting for the day. I'm gonna be celebrating if that happens, because that will change, as I said many times, as much as the arrival of the F-16s. Because there are so juicy targets 15 kilometers from Ukrainian border. You wouldn't believe what they have there, because they think nobody will attack it. My friends, this photo was published actually by a Russian media outlet, Russia Today, and it shows the range of weaponry provided to Ukraine inside Russia, if the Western powers choose to allow the usage of all of them inside Russia. Now, of course, it's not that black and white, since this photo is meant to terrorize the Russian civilians into thinking that, oh my God, okay, NATO is going to strike us, let's consolidate behind Putin. In actuality, Ukraine has not been known ever to strike civilian targets, not even once. They cannot risk it. They would lose all the support. So they would only focus on military bases, air bases, fuel facilities, and there's no shortage of them. There's no need to strike civilian targets at all, because they couldn't even strike all of the military targets, since there are just so many of them in this range, what you can see here. Now, my friends, I'll show you a list of countries. So far, this video has only been about lists of countries, but this is the last one, believe me. List of countries who have given Ukraine aircraft, or who have pledged the Western aircraft to be given to Ukraine. Poland, 14 MiGs, Slovakia, 13 MiGs, Macedonia, 4 Su-25s, and Lithuania, 1 Il-39 Albatros. All of these have been delivered already to Ukrainian Air Force. What will be transferred soon, you can see here, and we have talked about it so much, but the newest addition to it is Sweden. Not with F-16s, but with 2 Swedish Saab-made AWACS planes. Early warning and control aircraft. You know the United States AWAC with the big radar on top? Well, Sweden is also producing them. And they only have 2. And they gave 2. They gave all of their AWACS that they have. And here are the range of them. 2 of them can cover the whole of Ukraine with early warning, so they could really be more prepared about Russian missiles. Plus now, with the allowance to shoot down Russian bombers who shoot the rocket or missiles on Russian airspace, they can actually be so much more prepared, and even not allow the missiles to be airborne at all by shooting down the bombers before they even reach Ukrainian airspace. This is a huge gift from Sweden. These planes are very hard to produce and they're insanely expensive. They're very capable, and they will act as a force multiplier for the F-16, since any plane is as good as the radars supporting it, and this AWAC is an insane radar. I gotta talk a little bit more about Sweden, because they only recently joined NATO, but they're already punching well above their weight. Let me read their recent aid packet to Ukraine. It's 1.3 billion USD. The entire fleet of the Swedish PBV-302 armored personnel carriers. So Sweden has 239 of them in their military, all combined, armored personnel carriers. And they gave all of them, every last one, like the AWACS also. It's insane. Surplus of tanks and AIM-AMRAAM missiles, of course. I have huge respect for Sweden for doing this, and this boosts Ukrainian capabilities many folds. My friends, now I'll do some news about Donald Trump, and no expert on this. I'm just stating this as information because it's so important and it affects this war big time. Donald Trump was found guilty by the jury of 34 cases of felony. He faces up to 4 years in prison. Of course, his lawyers will, according to United States law, as much as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, the president needs to be this and this age, needs to be living 14 years in United States, but there's nothing about being criminally charged. So technically, Donald Trump could still run for president even from prison, and technically he could be elected. So he could be president in prison. Of course, when he would be elected, I think he would get out of prison. I don't know how this works. If you know about this, please write it to me in the comments, educate me and the viewers. But as much as I understand, he could be the first president who will be criminally charged, put to prison, and then elected to president. Of course, it is when he wins, because when you are criminally charged officially by the New York court, I think you're gonna lose some supporters. A lot of supporters, I think. Anyway, I'm open to all information, and I'm open to educating myself on this topic. So feel free to write everything. My friends, look at this photo. This is from the Kerch. This is from the Kerch Harbor. Kerch Bridge, you know, but there's also Kerch Harbor because there's ferry crossings going back and forth all the time in case something happens with the bridge. And it's not only for people or for cars. This harbor hosts infrastructure to transport trains by ferry. Not whole trains, but one by one the carts. I kid you not. This is what the Soviets built out. There was no bridge yet, so all of the rail going to the Crimean Peninsula and then to southern Ukraine had to go across the Kerch Bridge via ferries. So here we can see what Ukraine did last night with United States ATACMS. Yes, they used the ATACMS. They struck the Kerch Harbor and they struck those ferries that carry rail carts. And here we can see a satellite photo already. The ferry got hit right here. Now this hole is small, but the fire was huge because all of this deck is wooden and it burned for a long time. That was put out in the end, but it cannot be used for quite some time. They gotta replace this entire deck. And you can see it here also. It was huge damage and one side of the ferry completely collapsed into the sea. Why was this important? Because it eliminates a huge portion of the logistics going through the Kerch, through the Crimean Peninsula. Since the Russians never really fully repaired the Kerch Bridge in a way that it could allow heavy trains to cross it, they're using ferries to do it. So these ferries are actually part of the Russian army's rail logistics. And now they have been knocked out cold. From here you can see a side image of the ferry. As you can see, a portion of it collapsed into the sea. Of course, it was not sunk, it was not fully destroyed, and Russians are able to repair it. It's not a military vessel, you can actually repair it with a month or two, but still, this is a significant logistical threat to the Russian army group south. And here you can see what it looks like. A rail cart drives, how do you say, rolls on top of the ferry, stops, and then the ferry goes and delivers it to the Crimean Peninsula. And that's the hole, and that's the fire around it that ate all the wood. But my friends, that wasn't it. At the same time as the ATACMS were striking from above, something also came from the sea. The sea baby, yeah! The beautiful name for a beautiful drone. Ukrainians sent a few sea babies to the Kerch Harbor, and there were Russian patrol boats. And one sea baby hit one patrol boat, sinking it fully, destroying it, knocking it out cold. This is confirmed by the GUR, Ukrainian military intelligence. They're using the sea babies. So this attack was successful in many ways. Ukrainian weapons used, United States weapons used, 2 different types of targets eliminated. My friends, this is not just another burning house in Russia or burning factory in Russia. This is Putin's dacha. Putin's summer villa. Officially, it is owned by Gazprom, of course, but Putin never personally owns anything. But he owns all of Russia. So he owns Gazprom. Gazprom owns this building. It was known that Putin visits this very same resort in the summer. So it's burned down. Putin's villa burned down. Beautiful. And as you can see, it's very far from Ukraine, so it couldn't have been a drone, or if it is the record. But I think it's just somebody having fun, a pro-Ukrainian person living in this area of Russia, just pulling a match. That's how easy it is. Oh, there are so many juicy targets like that inside of Russia. One match is okay. I don't think Putin will be coming back here. As you can see, there are also helicopter pads because, of course, such officials in Russia like Putin and the surrounding elite, they travel by aviation. So this is why they visit this place, but they cannot anymore because it's hard to go when it's burned down. But my friends, talking about Gazprom, It's a Russian state-owned company. It's Putin's company. And Gazprom's revenues and market cap quite literally represents how Russia as a state is doing. See, the United States or some other advanced oil-producing country in the world, let's say Norway, for example, you couldn't say that the country's economy is so directly connected to the oil prices as it is in Russia. Russia is a very living example of the oil curse, if you know what it is. Norway has gotten out of it, United States has gotten out of it, not Russia. This is the market cap of Gazprom, and as you can see, 2013, 2012, 2010, just before, a few years before they invaded Crimea, look at it, 200 billion. It was one of the most valuable companies in the world back then. Then they invaded Crimea and the sanctions started. And boom, you can see it go down from 200 to 50 billion market cap. That is almost what's huge, massive drop. And I remind you, Gazprom is also owned in huge portion by the stock owners of all across the world. So everybody lost an insane amount of money on Gazprom at that time. Then 2022, they invaded Ukraine and the oil prices spiked in Europe due to the Russian oil and gas weapon. And boom, they went back up to 125 billion market cap. Then the $60 price cap was forced on Russian oil exports, $60 per barrel. And what is happening? We see the absolute lowest market cap of Gazprom since 2010, even before, since 2010 started with 150 billion already almost. So Gazprom has never been this cheap ever since the mid of 2005, 2006, from the crisis of 2008. It is free falling right now. And this is not Gazprom, this is the Russian economy, because their economy is their oil and gas export. That's how robustly simple it is. My friends, ever since Yevgeny Prigozhin is no more, knocked out cold, I've been missing my clown. I need a clown. We need to watch some pro-Russian potato heads say stupid stuff. And Lukashenko lacks the charisma, so I gotta turn to the good old pal Steven Seagal. Yes, he was officially ordered by Putin to give him the prize of the friendship of the Russian Federation. Now he is invited in front of all of these VIPs. This is Putin himself. And by the way, here is the military chief of staff. Here is all of the ministers. This guy, Steven Seagal, is reading this speech to the entire leadership of Russia. Let's watch the speech, and it is spicy. It is almost Prigozhin level.
Ukraine was known for human trafficking, organ trafficking, narco trafficking, child sex trafficking, biochemical warfare labs, fascism, and Nazism. And
look at this stuff. He's like, he's making like some mistakes in his pronunciation. He obviously did not rehearse this, otherwise he would be looking at the people. I mean, it's only 1 minute. I can remember this speech in 1 minute. He's reading from the phone to the entire leadership of Russia.
And these are the things that we still try to make them our brothers.
Like the pause, you can obviously say he hasn't seen this text before, meaning this text was probably written to him by the Russian propaganda machine just before he came to the stage. He's forced to read. I mean, don't get me wrong, Steven Seagal is a douche, but obviously he's a Russian propaganda tool now.
And these are all poisons that can affect the entire world, not just us. Many people say we are facing an existential threat by all these conditions, but actually the whole world is at risk of becoming dangerously close to...
Look at this. Look at this Russian leadership. It's crazy to see that all of these guys are forced to listen to this douchebag. Putin is making them listen, and the propaganda writes the words. I mean, these guys should be leading the army right now. They're losing in Ukraine. No, I don't want to go into that. Crazy comments will come. They're having difficult time in Ukraine. Army needs its leadership, and this is how they spend their time. It's stupid.
Entering into World War III. We are facing the same monster trying to devour, conquer, and control the world through lies, disinformation, and manipulation.
Boom. He read his propaganda text. Now he gets the candy. He gets that friendship medal from Putin. It is so bizarrely stupid. But I'm glad I got my clown back. We talked about the Russian army group south. and their logistics before. For example, the Kerch ferries that were just struck, the rail ferries, they're responsible for the Army Group South logistics, carrying across the Crimean Peninsula with the railway, since the Kerch Bridge cannot support heavy trains right now at all after the attacks. So Ukraine is methodically focusing down on Army Group South's logistics. Why? Are they preparing for something? Yesterday, there were drone and missile attacks to several locations in Russia. Across the Kerch Strait, on the Daman Peninsula in Russia, drones hit an oil storage facility. There were multiple explosions in Russian cities close to Ukraine, including Rostov, Novorossiysk and Krasnodar, primarily targeting petroleum products storage facilities. Drones struck oil storage facilities near the Kerch Strait and the Russian ports of Kavkaz. The attacks over the last 2 days indicate that the Ukrainian military command is trying to stop fuel supplies of the Russian army on the southern front. Now, this is a methodical preparation for something. It will take a long time, but we don't know what it is. Now, 2023, Ukrainian counterattack, we all remember it. We all remember the hype, the bubble that was blown big, and then the counterattack failed. That's how it was. It failed, since Russia was allowed to build out their fortifications and Ukraine talked and talked and talked about it, making Russia prepare even more. But now they don't talk anymore. But we see the destruction of logistics. Why? Something big is coming, my friends. Not in 2024, in 2025. My friends, I want to present to you a new clothing brand, REHI clothing brand. We have launched it, and we are actually right now designing our own packages, our own packing materials. You will get a whole experience when you order these. But right now it's a discount of 25% on everything. As you can see, hats, t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, gift cards, or Ukrainian designs, as you can see, with love from Ukraine. I love Ukraine. In HIMARS we trust. All of these designs are quite ageless. They're connected to this war now and in 10 years. So go and get you or your family member, your grandmother, a nice little gift from REHIStore.com, my new clothing brand. And now, my friends, for the last time of this week, I'll be butchering the monthly Buy Me a Coffee members. Doug, allansanmar@gmail.com. Damn, is that a Gmail? I shouldn't say this, but I did. Oopsie. Rein Me. Anton Pokhodenko. That's the Ukrainian name. Tale Reisfield. Mari. Big Willy. Punkt. Thank you to all of these supporters. If you like my channel, you know what to do. Until my next video, my friends, which will be on Monday, so be back. Slava Ukraini, and bye-bye.